The twin suns of Proxima Elandar hung low in the orange sky, casting the plains into molten gold. The wind carried the scent of copper and rain across the wide expanse of Kessler Ranch, a lonely stretch of land owned by one man, one human, who hadn't spoken to another living soul in 12 years. Retired Captain Jonas Kessler had fought in 3 planetary wars and seen half the galaxy burn in the name of peace. When the treaties were finally signed and the fleets disbanded, he used his pension to buy a forgotten colony plot on a fringe world no one cared about. A place without cities, without noise, without people. His ranch wasn't much, an old wind tower, a hydroponic greenhouse, a stable for his pair of 6-legged grazing beasts, and a small house with metal walls that had outlasted better men. He'd built it for silence, and silence was what he got. Each morning he woke before dawn, drank bitter black-sin coffee, and walked the perimeter fence. He didn't need the fence. There hadn't been trouble in years, but the routine kept his mind from wandering to old ghosts. Until the night the stars changed. Jonas noticed it while refilling his generator. 11 streaks of light crossed the sky in formation, too straight, too slow for meteors, too erratic for ships. They vanished behind the eastern hills with a low thunder that shook the soil. The next morning, he found scorched glass patches in the grasslands. He told himself to ignore it. Whatever had fallen from the sky wasn't his concern. But 2 days later, something knocked on his door. Middle, the widows of Zereth Prime. He opened the door with his plasma carbine half-raised. On his porch stood not raiders, not scavengers, but 11 women. At least, they looked like women at first glance. They wore long, torn cloaks that shimmered with faint iridescence. Beneath the fabric, their skin flickered in shades of lilac and silver. Their eyes were wider than human eyes, luminous with concentric rings that pulsed like soft biolights. The tallest of them spoke first. Her voice was laid, as if 2 beings spoke in harmony. Captain Jonas Kessler, you are the registered owner of this land, yes? He blinked, lowering the carbine. Used to be captain. Now I'm just a rancher. The alien tilted her head. We mean no harm. We seek shelter, temporary, until the storms pass. Jonas squinted toward the horizon. The wind was turning violet, the sky thick with magnetic clouds, a sign of a coming ion tempest. No sane creature would be caught outside when that hit. Storm's bad this time of year, he muttered. You'll fry out there. One of the smaller aliens, her face pale like frost, stepped forward, trembling. Please, we have nowhere else to go. Our transport was destroyed. He exhaled through his teeth. Against every instinct screaming to stay alone, he opened the door wider. Fine, inside, but keep your hands off my tools. They filed in silently, graceful as ghosts. Inside, the 11 strangers huddled near the heater. Their cloaks dripped glowing moisture onto the floor, smelling faintly of ozone. Jonas brewed water, trying not to stare. When he finally asked where they come from, the leader gave a name that made his chest tighten. Zereth Prime. He'd heard that name during the war. It was one of the planets obliterated by orbital bombardment during the final campaign. He remembered the orders. He remembered pressing the fire command. Their faces were unreadable. We were the bonded mates of Zereth's Defense Council, the leader explained. When our world fell, we were evacuated to refugee transports. One by one, those ships vanished. We are what remains. Widows of Zereth Prime. Jonas set down his mug, his hands trembling slightly. I fought in that war. We know, said another woman softly. Your name is in the records of the Iron Fleet. The silence that followed felt like a hole in the room. The storm and the secret. The ion tempest struck that night. Winds howled like creatures. Lightning crawled horizontally across the sky, turning night into violet day. Jonas's old ranch house groaned but held firm. The widows stayed in the lower quarters, and Jonas sat awake in his armchair, listening to the storm and the ghosts of memory. When morning came, he found them in the greenhouse, their hands glowing as they touched the wilted plants. Within seconds, the crop straightened, revived. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Restoring life," said the leader, whose name he'd learned was Vera. "Our species absorbs ion energy. We can channel it into living systems. Consider it payment for your kindness." Jonas wasn't used to kindness or debt. "You don't owe me anything. You can stay till the skies clear." But the days turned into weeks. The storms didn't end, and the widows didn't leave. They repaired his machinery, recalibrated his wind towers, and revived the soil. The ranch that had once been dry and dying began to glow at night, grass swaying with bioluminescent seeds, air full of soft whispers. Yet every night, Vera would climb to the ridge and stare into the distance. Jonas joined her one evening, curiosity gnawing at him. "You're not just waiting out the storm, are you?" Her luminous eyes met his. "We are hunted, Captain. The Federation that destroyed our world sent drones to erase the last of us. They called us contaminants. Our ship's crash here was not by accident. It was shot down." Jonas felt something break in his chest. "You came to the worst possible place to hide," he said bitterly. "This ranch is registered in human archives." "Perhaps," Vera said softly, "but the last human alive on it is a man who hates war." Middle turning point. The visitors. The following week, Jonas saw the black dots in the sky. Surveillance drones. He cursed and hurried to the barn, where the old defense turret sat rusting. It hadn't been fired in years. He powered it up, the familiar hum awakening a part of him he thought he'd buried. The widows gathered around him. "We can cloak ourselves," one said, "but not this structure. If they scan you aiding us, they'll destroy everything." Jonas stared at them. 11 widows, 11 survivors of a war he helped cause. "I've got nothing left to lose," he said finally. "Let them come." The drones arrived by dusk, black spheres scanning the terrain. Jonas fired the turret once. The pulse tore one apart, but more appeared. Then Vera raised her arms. A wave of blue light rippled from her palms, bending the wind, blinding the senses. The air trembled as the widows joined her, singing in a harmonic tone that resonated through the ground. The drones faltered, their circuits melting midday. One by one, they crashed into the soil like metallic rain. When silence returned, Jonas realized his heart was pounding, not with fear, but awe. "You saved this place," he whispered. "No," said Vera. "You saved us. Again." The weeks that followed, peace returned, fragile but real. The widows began to rebuild their small shuttle in Jonas's barn, converting it into something new, a hybrid vessel powered by the planet's ion storms. Jonas, for the first time in decades, laughed again. He found himself teaching them old Earth songs, showing them how to ride the six-legged grazers, cooking stew for 12 instead of 1. Each of the widows had a different story. One, Lyri, had been a poet before the full Zerith. Another, Nora, was a healer who could sense when the crops needed water before the soil dried. They decorated the house with soft lights made from storm crystals. At night, the ranch glowed like a small galaxy of its own.